Moses is basically being told, go speak to the rock, and he doesn't, and the rock still creates water. That's a miracle. And God says, you misrepresented me, you're disqualified, you will not enter the promised land. David's adultery didn't disqualify him, but Saul choosing to disobey God, to hang on to the approval of his people, did disqualify him. Moses murdering someone didn't disqualify him, but Moses misrepresenting God to the people later in his life did disqualify him. How you handle somebody when they make a mistake is the number one ingredient to their healing. You want to be the opposite of your parent and rebel, but you're so obsessed with it that you become it. My parents are critical, and so I just refuse to judge anyone. And then I can't help but nitpick everything. Moses goes, must we create water for you? Good job, Moses. You've just made yourself so important. You've just literally connected the future of all of these people to you specifically. So you're trying to avoid abandonment. Looking at his attachment style. Your issue is not that you don't believe you can be chosen. Your issue is that you believe that these people that God chose were worthy of their calling. So how did Joshua do it? How did he become the one that trusted God when no one else did? Everyone wants to get to the high places, but if you want to go high, you first have to go deep. Bada bing, bada bang. What's up? Welcome back to Deep End. What's up, Jake Supe?
Wow.
Jake Bryant. Jake.
Dear God, dude.
Jacob.
Lord help us.
What are we going to call you, man?
I don't know. Just call you Taylor and call me Blake.
Stop changing your brand on us and we'll be fine. We'll understand you.
Well, maybe if you'd stop going by Tyler, we'd be fine.
So sad. That is so
Welcome back to the Deep End, everybody.
Yeah, if you have not watched this before, we just sit and we talk about jokes in the Bible, and we talk about neuroscience and business and psychology and pickleball and all of the above.
And if you don't like the alcohol, Taylor's legs, and slides, then just comment on that and help the algorithm. We'll appreciate it.
Yeah, and I physically don't care if you don't like my office, but this is it.
That's fine. Yeah, it's great.
It's Friday. Not our normal day, so this might be a slightly different vibe. That's okay. I'm cool with that. I'm just letting the audience know I'm like in really, really, really deep prep for an event coming up in 2 weeks. So my brain is like crazy right now. So I'm a little bit of grace would be helpful if from you. Not the audience is fine, but from you, Jake. If I don't answer questions the right way, you just gotta have like keep coaching me through it, because I have so much working memory happening right now. But anyways, what I thought we could talk about is something I've been personally trying to explore and uncover the last couple of weeks, which is why do we do things we don't want to do? Why do we not do the things that we know we should be doing? Everyone talks about this idea of self-sabotage, but no one knows what it is. No one knows where it comes from.
Yeah, you've talked about it more recently.
I have, because I'm like the world's greatest self-saboteur. Through personal experience, I have learned self-sabotage because I self-sabotage so much. And I've started going deep with the Lord and learning what he's kind of pointed me into learning. And what I've found is a lot of our examples from the Bible. These people had parts of their personalities and parts of their higher function being warped and sabotaged all the time. And so they would make decisions that were like, dude, that is not a King David decision. What just happened?
Yeah.
Who just showed up? Or like Moses, that was not Moses. What happened there? Who did that? Abraham, dude, it's like you read the Bible, here's Abraham, and then in the middle, it's like, what happened? He just turned into a terrorist. What happened? And then you're back to Abraham. What are those slips in the middle when we like completely self-destruct? And then we're like, I don't know why I did that. And then we just forget and move on. But there's a lot of self-sabotage in the Bible. There's a lot of people and stories and experiences that we can find where this person did not behave in a way that they knew they were supposed to behave, and they did not care until after. Why does this happen? Because it's not actually the devil. It's just not. If I had $1 for every person who wanted to blame all their problems on the devil, I'd be even more rich and I would have more houses. But it's not the devil's fault. We lack personal responsibility and we like to blame the devil for our mistakes. The devil's just racking up credit. It has nothing to do with the devil. there are things that have been compromised in our minds and in our bodies, and then we justify it. We create a narrative like, oh, that's just my personality. That's just who I am. And then before you know it, you have these people that are old in life and they are full of regret because they never caught the responsibility part early on. This is a pretty heavy topic, but I don't know. I think we've all experienced it.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever experienced like doing something that you know you're not supposed to do, and in the moment, if you actually cared, you would stop doing it?
Yeah.
So it's just being a truth teller requires us to be like, in the moment, I did not care. Like, I literally did not care. Because if you did care, you would stop. Right?
Yeah, it feels so messed up because when you're doing it in the moment, you're like, it's weird. You're like talking out loud, but you're thinking in your brain at the same time. And for me, that is self-protection. I am learning more than ever in the past month that I love to self-protect because I'm terrified of being abandoned and rejected, because all I knew as a kid was being abandoned and rejected unless I performed. And so it sucks. And so sometimes if I'm not careful, I will self-protect in the wrong situations. And so what I did for years is I went the opposite, is I went fully transparent and I was vulnerable with everybody to see if I could get people to go out of my life faster. But then I learned how to weaponize that and only give parts of it to where I could control the situation. And then I've even done that with my wife, and without even really knowing it, and then codifying it into, I've become like a master at self-protection.
Yeah.
And I'm self-protecting from my wife things and justifying it in my own mind. So yeah, super fun. Would love to catch that earlier in life. And the last time that I just caught this was after what, a year and a half, basically. Yeah, it's been after a year and a half. So I'd love to catch it a lot faster. And I would love to have resources in an episode like this where I can watch this back in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and see what things I'm doing.
So all right, I'm going to go on a wild goose chase for a second because you started that.
Okay.
This might have nothing to do with the episode, but before we started recording this, Harrison, my 2-year-old, he's about to be 3, was like sitting in here. And did you pay attention to the exchange that happened
When?
as I took him out and what I was saying to him?
As you took him out? No, I didn't hear that part.
So I was fill the crew in. Harrison's sitting in this chair and he's singing Jesus Loves Me.
We're having a great time.
He's recording, and it's nap time. But his sister's in the living room watching a show. So for a 2 or 3-year-old, we have a very overcomplicated system right now. Like he's recording, he's sacrificing the show to record. And I pull him upstairs and he goes back to wanting to watch the show. And here's what's happening in his little brain that's trying to develop. He's having this feeling of overwhelm because he thought he was going to go back in and watch the show, but it changed. And now he missed what he wanted to do. And he's connecting it to being in here, and is like, he doesn't know how to organize any of these details. And so he starts to cry and he starts to feel overwhelmed. And you can see it in his eyes. He's like pained. And so I'm talking to him and I'm saying, I know, it's okay. You're going to be okay. And he takes his hands and he wraps his hands around my neck once we get upstairs, and he just hugs me and sobs in my shoulder. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. You're safe. You're going to be fine. It's all okay. We're going to have a little nap time. We're going to wake up. We're going to play with mom. And he's just sobbing because he is reconciling loss and whose fault is it? When a child does not feel that, when they do not feel safe, we would call that child wise beyond their years, smarter than they should be. We would congratulate them because when a child lacks safety and engagement, they become extremely emotionally intelligent. They learn how to regulate themselves when they should not have to. They learn how to regulate their parents when they should not have to. The reason that you are so wise is you're 25. By the way, you just had a birthday. Congratulations. But when people hear of you and your age, they're shocked because you're 25.
And I hang out with you.
The reason is actually precedes me. It comes from when a child experiences emotional volatility early on.
Mm.
And it causes them to become a little bit too wise. This happened with my wife. We can get into attachment theories on this as well.
Okay.
Because my wife experienced the need to grow up way too soon as a kid. And they developed this wisdom that outpaces what they should be. Not the wisdom that is the gift from God, but the street smarts that comes from having to keep you alive. Almost all protectors, you're talking about self-protection,
Mm-hmm.
almost all protectors develop really early on as kids, and they get so smart that they cut you off later in life from who you actually want to be.
Mm.
This is too
You're saying the personality inside of you will cut you off from who you want to be.
Well,
is that what you're saying? I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding.
Personality gets warped because a personality, first of all, is not a real thing. What people are saying when they say personality is like a integrative connection of like chemicals and neural connections and states. So it's like a personality is malleable. It's always changing.
Mm-hmm.
When the personality becomes fixed, then it self-sabotages. It cuts you off. So like when you are cut off from the best version of yourself, that is because there's an old, sophisticated version of yourself that is protecting you from the downsides of going for it, of being honest, of apologizing, of following your heart, of obeying God, whatever it is. This is the self-sabotage in the middle. Self-sabotage is always a protector. It's always a protector. It's never that you're trying to hurt yourself and betray yourself. It's always that there's a part of you that's like, hey, I saved you when you were 6 years old, and I'm going to save you now. Turn it off. Even though I'm 37, the 6-year-old protector was just wired up so tight that my 37-year-old sort of like loses control. I regress back. This is not exactly how it works. I'm personifying parts of a person's brain into a person.
Yeah.
But therapists do this all the time. Internal family systems is like personifying pieces of a person's personality. You have all these different personalities that are commingling together, and they're all trying to keep the host alive. You would be the host. So, and if you study IFS or
what's that?
Internal family systems, or if you study like Hoffman style integration, which I think is called quadratics.
Okay.
People can go look this up.
Okay.
But there are different parts of a person's mind and body that kind of cluster together with goals. And then every time we feel wrestled, like we don't know what to do, it's just two different parts of us fighting with each other. And the thing that concerns me about my kids and why I share the story of Harrison and Kate as well is I don't want them to develop protector personalities because I mishandled a situation or because I wasn't available emotionally or because they were punished for something that they did not know was wrong. This is the first version of a child that you actually get to meet is not the version of the child that God built them to be. The first version of a child you get to meet is the version of them that they feel safest to show you. It's the version of the child that they know will not get punished. This is important as the babies come here because like you have this brand new human with the spirit and the soul. And the first time that she can get to experience real love is when she misbehaves. That's the first moment that she'll experience true love. Because if she doesn't experience love unless she behaves, all of a sudden her real personality takes a back seat and the performative personality shows up. This is the personality that I must show to my mother to be connected with. Because a child doesn't view connection as like love. A child views connection as life. Disconnection is death. Connection is life. So it's so complex and so complicated because we have these adults that grow up and they are still performing in a way that can give them acceptance. and their body literally thinks that if they are not accepted, they physically die, which is where they regress. This is why people act so crazy, and they're so afraid of rejection. They cannot launch the book. They can't do it. They want to do it. They can't do it. They physically can't do it because their body still believes that if they launch the book and nobody buys it, they will physically die. And all of the hooligans on the internet are just like, just get over it. F your feelings. They don't matter. All depression is because you're not close to Jesus. You're an idiot. You can't say that stuff. You can't say things that are going to compromise a person's inner defense mechanisms. You can't just force them to run into danger. We have to teach them how to bring the safety of the Holy Spirit into the danger. I'm on like a huge monologue right now, so pause.
No, you're good. I think what I'm getting from that is what I feel like I'm constantly learning. And my wife asked, she's like, what's your favorite thing about me? And I always tell her it's her pure heart. Because I know like her and I are like, if we take personality tests, we can both manipulate people really well. Like that's both, dude, let's be honest. Like,
that's great.
We can both manipulate each other to death.
I've been manipulated by Heather many times. Just kidding. She can't defend herself. She doesn't have a mic.
But the thing that I'm learning over and over and over again is that like I can be honest with God, but then knowing that God wants me to also be known by other people, not just him, that is one of the most terrifying things ever. Because I know that God can see all the intentions of my heart. He can see these things. But the scariest thing is trusting God to go with me. I had to tell my wife some really hard stuff a couple weeks ago. And I was like, Holy Spirit, you got to bring it out of me. Because it's going to destroy her. Like she'll probably want to leave like this, that, and the other. And I just was trusting him. I was like, Holy Spirit, I need you to keep me safe through this. Because I feel like I'm going to die. Literally. I don't know how to talk about anything.
Yep.
And then literally not even a week later, it just fell out of my mouth. And I was like, I just said it. I'm like, I don't have to self-protect myself anymore.
Yeah.
And has it been tough? Yeah. Has it been worth it? 100%. I don't feel so alone anymore. I finally feel safe in that someone knows me 100%. When we were talking about feeling like a fraud, I was like, this was 2 episodes ago. This was Jesus' operating system. Going through that has been so healing in so many ways, but there's still a lot more that I want to learn. I have a lot more. So I'm excited for whatever content you're about to go into. I know you've got some stuff probably lined up on the biblical side where people have seen it, so all of us can relate, all of us can see it. But I'm excited to go into it. My wife's literally coughing to death over there. She's had a cough for 3 weeks.
She's not coughing to death, bro.
Okay, she's coughing.
It's okay.
But I'm excited because I have a lot more to learn, and I want to be able to watch this in a few years and catch more things and become aware of more things and continue to grow. That's one of my favorite things about these episodes, man. Every time I listen to them back, I always learn more. It's my favorite thing.
Oh yeah, I'm glad. I feel a responsibility, dude.
Good for you, man.
You know,
sorry. I need to give you more grace.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm such in a deep place about this stuff. I want to get into it. I also want to tell people as a caveat before, like, I think we'll get into some things that are pretty heavy and pretty important. This is not like if you're somebody who has been through extreme trauma, and whether that's abuse or abandonment or whatever, it's a good idea to see someone. Like, it's always a good idea. At the end of the day, Jesus is the ultimate healer. The Bible calls him the great physician. But there's this thing going around on the internet right now, and with pastors, specifically with pastors, where they're just like, all you need is Jesus, forget everything else. I just saw one of the videos that came out, and I won't say his name, but he was telling a room of thousands of people to get off their medication. And
what?
The way that you fix health issues is go on a 40-day fast. And that's extremely irresponsible. And so what I don't want people to gather is that
it's like saying you don't need heat in your house during the winter.
I think it's pretty bad. I think that there's going to be some serious issues.
That's wild.
It's irresponsible, and God uses people, and God will sometimes, like, he'll use anything he wants to use. So there's nothing. The thing I don't want to communicate is like, oh yeah, all you need is like a 2-hour YouTube video, and you should be able to fix everything.
Sure.
This is a spectrum.
But some things are launching points into
This could be a launching point.
Yep.
And this is, a culmination of, I think, years of my life feeling extreme self-sabotage, and then extreme pity that comes from self-sabotage, and then shame. It's like, why do I do this all the time? What's wrong with me? Not like, why did I do the wrong thing, but like, why am I wrong? And so you can see how the enemy will get in, and slowly, if he can just get you to do the wrong thing once, then you'll keep doing it, because we're patternistic. Our brains don't care about facts. Our brains care about predictions. So if you just try to fix the brain with information, it's not going to work. You have to actually understand what the brain wants. It wants to predict the future. And so for some of us, the safest way to predict the future is to just go, I'm probably going to mess it up, because that's what you've done in the past. And no amount of factual reasoning is going to fix that. You're going to have to learn how to go into the past with the Holy Spirit, undo some of that, and move into the future. Sometimes it's best to do this with the counselor, the therapist. Sometimes it's best to come to an event where somebody has 3 days to do it with you. But I feel an obligation to just put that out there on the front end, because people are doing it so wrong, and it's going to be becoming an issue. So like, don't just be like, well, I know how like the amygdala works now, so I'm going to quit all of my depression medication. No, let's make sure that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, good piece of advice.
So, what we were talking about, what was I on before we got onto that?
You were about, well, we had just kind of gone through just like IFS and whatever, like Hoffman or whatever it is, but I don't know if you were going to go into some biblical examples of where you see this. Like, it's not just you and me. I was like, are you going to go into some stuff where the entire audience can relate? Yeah. Not just our stories, but where we've seen it in history.
We see it. I mean, we see it all over the place in the Bible. Self-sabotage. Most self-sabotage is usually like a part of someone's personality is taken over to protect them from something. We teach this in belief architecture. If you have two value systems,
one of your events,
that can cause self-sabotage. Because like, you're about to have a kid. You have a value on providing for your family. You also are going to have a value to be there for your child.
Yep.
And so if these ever get misdefined, you're going to have massive self-sabotage in the middle. And it's like, oh my gosh, how do I fix self-sabotage? You don't. You literally don't. You'll never fix it. You have to make sure that the values agree. You have to line them up. So that's a form of it. But once we get past that, usually self-sabotage will come into play when you have two very strong parts of your personality that are conflicted. An example of this would be what psychologists call age regression. You have a 6-year-old personality that cares about this cluster of things, and then you have a 25-year-old personality. And I'm making them totally separate, but they're not. They're more overlapping than this. But if you went through something as a kid, as a child, and it stamped you, because this is how personality development works, both in neuroscience and in quantum mechanics and in physiological studies and somatics, which is the body. There are these different systems and structures that are responsible for keeping us alive and protecting us through life. We want to stay alive. And it's usually linear. So you're 6, and then what age are you?
7.
And then what age are you? 8.
No.
So this is, in developmental psychology, this is how they measure space, is like developmental age. But it's different than literal age. It's like, that's why you can be wise beyond your years.
Mm-hmm.
You can have somebody who's 6, but they're being treated and they're having to live based on the expectation of being 12.
Mm.
And so developmentally, they're so far beyond where they should be allowed to be that now that version is sort of stamped. It's a memory. It's a clustering of memories that's stamped usually somewhere in the left hemisphere of the brain, which is linear, and they're under processed. So The reason age regression happens is because later, when we're 29, we have all of these unprocessed memories that are somewhere in the left side, or they're misplaced. They're somewhere in the brainstem. They're stuck somewhere. And as soon as anything triggers something that looks like that, they just go right back to when they were 6. And they age regress. And that version of themselves takes over. And then you can just watch it happen. It's like this person is no longer 29. They're 12.
They're acting the same way as when they were 12.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this memory is it exists temporarily, it's contextual, it's emotional. And so I'm going to try to go through some examples, but just understanding that it's like whenever we're dealing with memory, it's like very complex, and the brain is wild, and it stores it everywhere, and it's got all of these different pieces and parts that talk to each other, and you've got associations and crazy stuff, which is why if you've got the Holy Spirit and you can hear the Holy Spirit, just sit down and ask him questions, because he loves to talk about this stuff, and he'll tell you exactly what you can handle. He won't take you beyond what you can handle. He'll help you self-regulate through it. And it's really cool. So, but the point of that is you see with Abraham, let's just go through some examples. Abraham, the dude is Abram. He lives in a land surrounded by idols. God talks with him. He listens. And then at some point along the way, he's like literally lying to someone, calling his wife his sister. This is weird because you're going into self-protection. Then years later, he's like sleeping with a concubine because he doesn't believe God anymore. Or maybe he believes God makes a mistake. So you look at Abraham and you're like, the heck happened to you, bro? The father of faith? We have to be honest about the people in the Bible. I've just said this until I'm blue in the face, bro. Like, they made stupid mistakes. So we can't deify them. How mad were people when we talked about Elijah?
You're so pissed.
Bro, so mad. It's like Elijah is not Jesus. He made really dumb decisions.
There's something about like a lens that I think, I don't know where even I've gotten it from, of like, if it's in the Bible, then that means it's prescriptive, not just descriptive.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing that polygamists are using right now when it comes to Solomon. What people are doing with Elijah, they're like, oh, well, Solomon was wrong. He was imperfect. But when it comes to Elijah, they're like, no, protect Elijah, protect Moses. But when it comes to Solomon, the polygamists are doing the same. They're coming with the same argument. They're like, well, Solomon had multiple wives. Why don't I have multiple wives? It's in the Bible. And I think Preston Morrison's actually the one that codified this for me. He says prescriptive versus descriptive. Two different things.
Bro. Preston can cook, man. Some of his Instagrams are just like, oh my gosh.
Dude, Preston Morrison and Tim Ross, when they get on the same podcast, I just sit there and I just absorb. It's amazing. But it's really helpful to hear that. It's like, okay, what's in the Bible? Is this descriptive or is this prescriptive?
Beautiful point.
Yeah.
Beautifully said, Jake.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing? That was a compliment. Whatever.
Maybe it doesn't happen often enough.
You guys are crazy. A point on that is that's why I think what you just said is why most people feel like they cannot be trusted with God's calling.
Why?
Because when they look at the Bible, they think Moses was perfect. He obviously didn't make any disqualifying mistakes. Absolutely, he made many disqualifying mistakes, and God still chose him. And so when we have this frame of like everyone in the Old Testament, everyone God used was perfect, we should just model everything about them. Then we look at our lives and we're like, well, I'm not perfect, therefore I can't be chosen. Well, no, your issue is not that you don't believe you can be chosen. Your issue is that you believe that these people that God chose were worthy of their calling. That's the issue you have. None were worthy. None were good enough. Even Jesus had a problem with this. They said, you're a good teacher. Jesus said, why do you call me good? No one is good except for God. Jesus said that. So that means that everyone that God chooses to use who's a man is not good. And he chose them anyways. That's just set you free just by itself. Anyways, you got Abraham acting like an idiot. You have Moses who is undeniably born into one of the more traumatic existences in Scripture. I mean, how traumatized would you be if you're a child and you must experience safety? The first thing you must experience is safety and protection. And you wake up and you are in the middle of a river by yourself. How much safety is there?
Exactly zero.
Dude. Like, this is why I can say, look, Moses did it wrong, but understanding completely, okay, man, this dude had like psychotraumatic experiences growing up. But we see it playing out with him with self-sabotage, where he's like doing really stupid stuff. And it's like, what happened to you? You were trained diplomatically. You were trained politically. And then you just decided on a whim to murder someone? You didn't think any of it through.
Anger got a hold of him.
Imagine you guys reading a story. Jake, co-founder of the Deep End, arrested for murder because of a workman's strike. It's something. Look at the equivalent. People will be shocked.
No one would be like, "Hey, let's model that."
They would be shocked. How would Taylor do that? Well, Moses did it, and then he does it again. He's losing his temper. In fact, the story I think we could go into today is Moses doing something dumb that we could learn from. This is way later. He's seen God do all of the miracles. He's seen God show up, but there was a part of him that didn't get released. It was a part of his personality from when he was younger that showed up, reared its ugly head, took over, and then actually disqualified him from going to the promised land. You see with David, King David, the man after God's own heart. Let's make a list of things that we associate with being a man after God's own heart. Pure, righteous, full of faith, killing another man and stealing his wife. One of these things does not belong.
Right. Yeah.
Now, is God dumb? Did he know that was going to happen? And yet he still chose David.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot disqualify yourself. You have not messed it up. You have not ruined it. There's no way for you to do that.
You need to go deeper on that, man, because I can tell I'm feeling it, and I think other people are hearing that. Like, just go deeper on that. I think you need to, if you can.
Yeah, well, if God required us to be perfect to choose us, then none of us would be chosen. No one has the potential. No one has the qualifications. God will do the opposite. He'll put you into positions just to remind you that you are not capable, but he still wanted you to be the one to do it. He chose you to do it. Even in our dysfunction, we have the opportunity to draw closer to God's heart. So I know from the historical fact record that if God had a line, like, this is what's too far. Murder wouldn't be beyond the line. Adultery wouldn't be beyond the line. Stealing wouldn't be beyond the line. What is it? At the end of the day, we have to look at God's historical decision-making patterns. David's adultery didn't disqualify him, but Saul choosing to disobey God, to hang on to the approval of his people, did disqualify him. Moses murdering someone didn't disqualify him, but Moses misrepresenting God to the people later in his life did disqualify him. So God's decision-making matrix is wildly different than ours. And we just think in terms of like, well, how bad is the thing? How bad is the sin? And that's not how God looks at it. God looks at the seed of it. Where did it come from? We can get into that later.
Yeah, you even have Peter cuts off an ear, the number one disciple, Goes crazy.
Well, cuts off an ear and then denies Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, people, imagine what would happen if.
And then that becomes one of the apostles that literally is known for leading. Dude, oh my gosh. Wow.
Let's say we bring an astrophysicist or a really smart doctor on the show, which I'm pushing for. I want some like ex-NASA people.
As if we didn't have an astrophysicist on
before. I want some more Hughes. But let's say we bring somebody on the show and they're like, what do you believe about Jesus? And I'm like, I don't believe in him. Never heard of him. What would you think as an audience? If I had a person or a political figure on the show and they asked me what I thought about Jesus and I just said, I actually don't believe in Jesus because I wanted to garner power and favor with that person. Mm-hmm. What if Oprah Winfrey had me on their show, or you saw me on the Today Show and like, what's your stance on forgiveness and God? And I was like, the universe can forgive you. There is no God. How would you treat me? How would the audience treat me?
You'd have a lot of videos going around. Yeah, a lot. You'd be called a heretic. You'd be told to forfeit your show. You'd be threatened. Definitely canceled.
Now, I'm not going to do that. But if I believed that every story in the Bible was to be modeled, that's exactly what I would do. Because that's what the Apostle Peter would tell me to do. Because that's literally what he did. Jesus, I've never heard of him. Did it disqualify him?
Somehow, no.
Somehow? This is God's nature. This is his personality.
Man.
And so we have to wrestle with it because God's not interested in just preventing everything from happening. God's most consistent trait is redemption, not prevention. I'm going to redeem this. I'm not going to prevent it.
I feel like my brain is like constantly trying to now rectify, like, okay, you can't be disqualified. But there seems to be like a pretty clear rule. Obviously, there are consequences to actions, and there were consequences to David's actions. And so I think,
and Moses and Abraham.
But David didn't immediately not be king. He had another type of consequence, which leads me to even think about how parenting works. Like you don't necessarily discipline every kid the same way. But then, like, what do you do with influence? Those who have influence, like, how much do we put into the hands of God versus the hands of men? Like Paul talks about, like the teachers are held to a higher standard. Like, so then how much do we go, okay, we're going to let God take this person down, or we're going to leave him up? I'm like, I don't know how to even rectify or even have a philosophy around that. It's hard.
Some of David's consequences were not inflicted by God. You can see David rupturing. You can see him fracture. He was not the same after that he was before. He had multiple parts. He now had multiple clusterings of personalities. He couldn't stand up for what was right afterwards. And then he would stand up for what is right. And he was constantly, everyone should read the story of David after, when his kingdom is stripped away from him by his children. And he can't do anything about it. He sits and he wallows and he struggles. And it's like he still has the faith in God, but he sort of is changed. And sin changes you. This is part of the reason, like, no, you can't be disqualified. But at the same time, you should not drink gasoline. It will change your body, not for the better. Don't drink things that are poisonous. It will hurt you. But this is weird spiritual dynamic of like, you're not going to be disqualified by it, but it will kill you just the same. This is both and. This is Moses, the consequences was God blocked him from the promised land. David was like the chaos in his family. He couldn't fix it. And most of that was because he lost who he was to be able to fix it. His personality just never recovered from it. Abraham, there were consequences there, but we're still dealing with the ripple effects of that. So it's not like, that's why Paul was nailing this down. It's like, it's not a license to sin. Grace is threatening to the religious order because you can't disqualify yourself, but that cannot be used as a license to just do things. And we as humans in the West are so dumb, we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. We can't hold both ideas at the same time. Guys, Both are true. You're not going to disqualify yourself. You haven't missed it. Don't drink gasoline and don't eat trash. How can both of those fit together? They just do. They're just the same thing. And I think this is why Paul was like, guys, should you sin so that grace would abound more? No. Idiot. Signed, Apostle Paul. Man, he'd be running. Imagine Paul having a YouTube channel right now. We can't go there. We're not going to go there, dude. So back to this. Examples. Jacob, you see what Jacob 2?
Can I ask one thing before we go there?
Yeah.
I'm trying to just think. I'm just trying to cover all bases to the best of my ability. Let's say I don't have an example for this. I'm not saying this is true. Okay. But let's say I've done something that I think technically disqualifies me from deep end. Again, there's nothing I'm thinking of. Okay. I'm just being hypothetical. Let's say I did something that I think disqualifies me from deep end. Like maybe I did kill somebody. Like what if I did? Like
I would have to call the police.
Okay, great. But what if like, I'm just trying to think of like what happens in that situation then if I'm technically not disqualified, if I haven't gone too far. Like what? I don't have a question. I'm just trying to, do you see what I'm trying to reconcile?
Yeah, I think it's partially is on, we have lost the idea that God makes decisions and we do what God tells us to do. We've lost that. And I don't know what, dude, honestly, you could do something very juvenile and not a big deal. And God could say his season is over. He needs to move on.
Yep.
And I wouldn't understand it. I'd be like, why? Because he's not fit for where this is going. Mm-hmm. Okay, I have to honor God. You can do something really crazy. And God could be like, nope. Work with him through it. Teach him through it. Help him forgive himself. I don't know what God's going to do. Mm-hmm. And we have to an extent, we have this with these parameters in the New Testament.
Right, exactly. Parameters.
That can be like disqualifying parameters.
Yeah.
And I think that those are very, very appropriate, especially seasonally. Like if you are engaged in this and this and this, right now, you need to take a seat. You're disqualified for leading people. Then can you rehabilitate through that? Yes, you can. This comes down though to like the structure that God set up, even in the New Testament, which was through accountability. But was accountability the main thing God cared about?
Not that I can think of. No.
Think about the church in Ephesus. This is where we're so off topic, but I think this might be important.
We're still on topic. I promise you. We're good.
Think about the church in Ephesus. This is where apostolic succession plans were built, and like a lot of the operating technology for church was centered around this area. And the apostles were building it. The OGs were there, building this out. And in Revelation, Jesus basically goes, everything you did there wasn't good enough.
Wait, what verse is this? What am I missing? Talking about the churches of Ephesus and the 7 churches?
Mm-hmm. This I have against you. You have abandoned your first love. Well, we can't use, man, I have the best like understanding of theological parameters for what qualifies a minister. That's my justification. Nope, you're disqualified just by thinking that that's a qualification. Well, we have the best healing ministry. And that's why, nope, you're disqualified for thinking that that's a qualification. Well, we have the best prophetic understanding of the end times. We have the best prophetic ministry. Nope, you're disqualified. We have the best feeding programs. We send 100,000 meals a week, and nope, you're disqualified for that. None of this is going to qualify you. It's all good things, but you have abandoned your first love, and therefore Jesus is going to come after you. So this is the greatest golden standard of churches, and Jesus still shows up and has this serious accusation against you. You've abandoned your first love. It's not good enough. Everything you figured out is not good enough. it puts you into this really, you should have the fear of the Lord of like, okay, I can have everything above reproach. I can have no drama. I could have no scandals. I could have the best training, the best teaching, the best performing media channels, but I'm not in love with Jesus. I don't have an obsession with him. I don't wake up in the morning craving the presence of God, and therefore you should probably not be in ministry. That's the pattern that I see, which is where you see Saul's doing a bunch of really bad stuff, and David's doing a bunch of really bad stuff, and one of them is acceptable, and one of them is not. It's hard. Even ministries that have miracles coming out of them, God does not care. Doesn't matter. There's a story in Numbers when, we'll go into this really deep in a second, but Moses is basically being told, go speak to the rock, and he doesn't. And the rock still creates water. That's a miracle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And God says, you misrepresented me. You're disqualified. You will not enter the promised land. So we have to be really careful that we're not like, dude, look at the fruit. Look at the fruit of our ministry. Yeah, as if God gives a freaking rat's, you know what? He doesn't care. Because the fruit does not justify like your means to getting there. Moses disobeyed. There was still fruit. For the sake of the people, God didn't agree with Moses, but he's going to take care of the people. So your miracles don't justify your church. And your salvations don't justify your church. Anyways, back to trauma. Are we too heavy right now?
No, you're just you're making things simple, which is what Jesus did all the time. He always took things that seemed very complicated and was like, well, here's the hardest question. Jesus was like, nope, here's a simple answer. Walk with it and deal with it and see if you can figure it out, because it's simple, but it's much harder to do. And we talk all the time where it's just, it doesn't always really make sense to just like call random people out or go after those things. It's like, does this person make you obsessed with Jesus or do they not? That's the question. And we even ask that about people we have on the show. It's like, does that person make me fall more in love with Jesus and of who he is, or does it not? And there's multiple scenarios right now where people have come after people, where I've noticed when I'm around those people, I'm like, I want to be closer to Jesus when I'm around this person. And then people try to come at them and I'm like, why? Why? This person's pointing me closer to Jesus. I don't really care about that person. The more that I'm around that person, the less I care about them, the more I care about Jesus. And that's become more and more of a filter of even who I hang with, my friends, what my wife and I do. Like, do I get more excited about Jesus when I talk to my wife, or do I just get more excited about my wife? It's a very, very helpful North Star when you're trying to go the right direction. But it's so comforting and terrifying to know what makes you qualify versus disqualify, because it's not the worldly qualification. In the worldly qualification, you want a job, you don't have to be in love with the owner. You got to have all the right things, and it would be a plus if you like the owner. But can you do your job?
Yeah. I'm trying to make it so it's not all spiritual, though, because there are practical tools that we need to use.
Sure. Which you mentioned, there's parameters.
Yeah.
That's our job, to go look into what those parameters are and ask the Holy Spirit for guidance, I would imagine.
Yeah. All right. I think we're good.
Numbers.
I'm just making sure.
Numbers 20 seems to be where you're going next.
Yeah. If you want to hit some of the trauma stuff, if you want to hit
Love to.
the self-sabotage
Love to.
ideas.
Yeah.
I'll read this and then I'll take you through some points, and then we can end with like some scientific literature on how this actually happens mechanistically.
Like why it's happening and what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be great.
It was one of my dreams would be like if a really talented like behavioral analyst or a neuroscientist or a clinical therapist could sit down with Moses today, I would love to know what comes out of that conversation. So when I read scripture, sometimes I almost think through like, okay, they didn't know anything back then. They knew God, but they didn't understand how God built the brain. So when I read this story, I'll read through it. I'll kind of start going through like, here's what I think was happening with Moses at this time. And this is part conjecture. This isn't like a theology lesson. This is part conjecture because I don't pray to Moses. I don't ask him questions. But one day when I get to heaven, I'll probably interview him. I'll be like, what were you thinking during the greatest scandal of your life? How did this impact your view of yourself?
As if he hasn't had thousands of years to figure that out.
King David, did you feel disqualified when you murdered that man? Like, how did this work? Because I actually think that the more we can understand, like, these were real humans. They were real people.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get to the story. This is Numbers 20. I started studying this because one of my mentors was like, you need to go study this. Because we hopped on a coaching call and they were like, the way that you sound right now. So I was complaining about some things. And there were some pieces of my personality that were like not jiving with what God's asking me to do. And this is just me being transparent and honest. I think sometimes God's ways make sense, and sometimes I think they're just totally backwards and they make no sense. And I am almost shocked at the audacity that God would have to ask me to do something that way. And so they were like, you need to study this story. So I did. It's Numbers 20. I'll read it. The Israelites, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, in the 40th year after leaving Egypt. And the people lived in Kadesh. Kadesh, I'm going to pull up who would have thought that Numbers 20 is where we would go to talk about trauma?
Yeah.
But it is where you see trauma so clearly, the complex version of trauma. Not just like this person had a traumatic relapse, but like this is why this person did this. Kadesh, by the way, if you look up Kadesh in like an expository dictionary, it means holy or sacred place. It's a place that's set apart, dedicated to God. This is important, and I'll get back to it in a second. This is the CSB version. They came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month, and the people lived in Kadesh. Miriam died there and was buried there. Now there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered together against Moses and Aaron. The people contended with Moses. This word here is a legal word. It means to strive or accuse, to litigate. They were like prosecuting Moses and Aaron. They said, if only we had perished when our brothers perished in the plague before the Lord. Why have you brought up the assembly of the Lord into this wilderness to die here, we and our livestock? Why have you made us come up from Egypt? Now, pause. Keep in mind, this is not the generation that died in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
That was a previous generation, and they complained about other things. It sounded similar. The casing was the same. The clothing was the same. The argument was the same, but different words. The first generation remembered what it was like to be slaves. This generation did not experience Egypt. They weren't in Egypt. And if they were like 6 months old. But look at how closely it mirrors the parents' complaint.
Yeah, you think it'd be the same people.
It's a different people and it's a different conversation. And so you've got some like, you can even see some epigenetic call-ins and like they're repeating the behaviors, but in a different way. They go, hey, our livestock, why have you made us come from Egypt? First, they don't even remember Egypt. So they're talking about Egypt. They're just being dumb. To bring us to this wretched place. It is not a place of grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, and there's no water to drink. Let's pause for a sec. The first generation, do you know what they complained about?
It was the giants.
Mm-mm.
Well, they eventually
when they wanted to go back to Egypt.
Didn't have manna in the water. I hate being quizzed and then I sound like an idiot. Why am I? Oh my God, what is it?
They were complaining about meat.
Manna.
Well, that's not meat.
It's quail.
They wanted the meat from Egypt. They wanted the salts from Egypt.
Oh, God. They want the delicacies.
This is in Exodus. They're complaining about other things. The trigger was the same. What triggered the complaint in Exodus? No water. What triggered the complaint in Numbers? No waters. But the things they complained about were different. The reason for this is because they were literally slaves. So they were worried about, we're going to physically die. Like today's food. Where's today's food? These guys are like talking about livestock, which is not today. That's tomorrow and next week. There's no water. So like, what's our future look like? So the survival mechanism is different. In Exodus, they're complaining about, we're going to die right now. In Numbers, we're complaining like, we're going to die in the future. Do we see the difference?
Yeah, they're trying to protect so they don't die again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's rough.
Then Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the doorway of the tent of meeting, or the tabernacle. They fell on their faces before the Lord in prayer. This is good. Good job, Moses and Aaron. You guys did the right thing. Then the glory and brilliance of the Lord appeared to them, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the rod, and you and your brother Aaron assemble the congregation and speak to the rock in front of them so that it will pour out its water.
So interesting that God literally even told Moses to take the rod. What if I was like, Taylor, take your iPhone and go to the top of the driveway?
Yep. Very specific. This is why last year we were doing episodes and I was talking about learning how to hear from God. I'm like, God will be very specific. So get specifics from God. What are you supposed to take into the next season? What are you supposed to leave in the next season? What do you do with the things you take? Are you supposed to do something with them, or are you just supposed to have them? Specifics. The blueprint for the tabernacle was very specific. It wasn't like, find some cloths and put them on a pole. No, it was, here are the metrics. Here's what it looks like. Here's the timing. Okay. Speak to the rock. This gets just really bad, really fast. And you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and let the congregation and their livestock drink fresh water. So Moses took the rod from before the Lord, just as he had commanded him, and Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly before the rock. Moses said to them, listen now, you rebels.
Oh no.
Must we bring you water out of this rock? Then Moses raised his hand in anger, and with his rod he struck the rock twice instead of speaking to the rock as the Lord had commanded. And what happened? Miracles still happened.
Like when the 10 Commandments got broken in half.
And the water poured out abundantly, and the congregation and their livestock drank fresh water. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, because you have not believed and trusted me to treat me as holy in the sight of the sons of Israel, you therefore shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. Look at this, and you change the parameters of this last way. You misrepresented me. How do I know it? Because you didn't trust me to follow my instructions the way that I gave them to you. Therefore, you were disqualified. Crazy story. Okay, so we have a version of Moses and a version of the people. Both are experiencing trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that because they're behaving in a way that is abnormal and unruly and disappointing. The people who have seen God provide, the congregation, the assembly, they're triggered by something. This is always what you're going to experience, is a trigger. There is something that occurs that regresses you back. The problem with complex trauma is sometimes it will regress you back to an age that you experienced, and sometimes it will regress you back to something that is epigenetic in your lineage. There are people alive today who are experiencing traumatic relapse that did not come from them. They came from their parents, or they came from their grandparents. There's the same thing happening right here. None of these people were cognizant the first time there was no water.
I'm interested in all the trauma stuff, but the main thing that I'm still stuck on right now is the whole disqualification thing now.
We'll get to it. Moses is triggered.
Yeah.
Because the last time he experienced this, caused him to control. There's a version of himself that he started having control. He's dealing with these unruly, insane, rebellious people. Well, this generation of people is not rebellious. And yet he labels them, you are rebels. You're rebels. Well, he's treating them as if they were the previous generation. So you can see him age regress. He's relapsed back into a previous version. And then his body just naturally carries out the same things that he did before. He hit the rock, which is what he did the first time. The instruction changed, but he didn't catch the instruction. And so Moses is triggered. This is why I'm interested in, like, dude, if we had a behavioral scientist meeting with Moses, they were, let's say they were taking Moses through like internal family systems. They would be like, Moses, what part of you took over in that moment? What part of you took over? Name it, label it. Who was this? IFS categorizes your protectors into, like, you've got your managers, your firefighters, which are protectors, and then you have like exiles. They're versions of a person that are so broken that they just hide. Then you have your managers, which try to keep everything going, and then you have your kind of protectors who put out fires. So they're personifying. So with Moses, you have a firefighter show up who takes over Moses' ability to lead, and it relapses him back into an old pattern. Very similar to how we started the episode, which was like, I knew that I was supposed to do it this way, but I just did it the other way. My body just took over. And I think we could probably break this down and take it from both angles, because the way that the people were triggered is different than the way Moses was triggered. And they're very different schematics.
Makes sense.
Are you okay?
I'm mind blown on that, but I'm also just sitting on this whole thing of like Moses, like when you look at Moses and you look at Caleb and then you look at modern day, this thing of the miracle happened, everyone's happy. Yeah, Moses, let's go. Privately, Moses is screwed.
Yeah.
Bias come back. I was just studying this in Numbers 12 a couple days ago of like Caleb and Joshua come back, and it's really Caleb. Joshua doesn't really get mentioned a whole lot until later. It's mainly Caleb. Caleb's the only one that says what he was supposed to say and is willing to do what God originally told them to do in the first place. Publicly looks like an idiot. Literally, I feel like if I wasn't in the right headspace, I would look at a Caleb and I'd be like, that dude's hilarious. Why would we ever put him in charge? If I'm not paying attention to the Holy Spirit, like, let's be honest, like Caleb's like, hey, the best thing is we should go take them down as soon as possible. He's like, let's raid Canaan as soon as possible. That's his words. But he's the only one that gets qualified to keep going. And God goes, the spirit of Caleb, I want more of him. And with Moses, the miracle works, which is just, it's just reframing. Sorry, dude. It's just reframing so many things at once of how we can see things the wrong way. Because we're like, yeah, we're Christians, but we don't look at what is God looking at. We're not asking to see things the way that God's seeing things. Obviously, it's hard to know, like, that God told Moses what not to do, but we need to be worried about ourselves. What did God tell us to do? But yeah, I'm also interested in the trauma side, and the disqualification piece is like, I don't want to miss that. 'Cause that's a big deal.
Both are big deals.
Yeah.
Because he could have been not disqualified. Like, what you're really fixating on right now is the byproduct
Of the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to, yeah. Which
scary.
makes
Makes sense because it's the more threatening thing.
Right.
But then try to fixate on the system failure, which would have prevented the disqualification.
Yeah.
Because that's where we have actually the ability to change. We can't change when God decides to disqualify us, nor should we. I think you would have a really difficult life if you're like, at what point do I cross the line and God disqualifies me? Let's not worry about that. Let's try to just not relapse and regress. Because God wasn't mad at Moses for hitting the rock. God was frustrated with Moses because he regressed, and the system failed him. He never, and I understand this. Like, honestly, I look at Moses and I just think, man, what a a really difficult life. To be born and given away, even for good reasons. So you experience rejection. The first thing you ever experienced as a child was rejection and a lack of safety. And then the next however many 12, 15, 16 years of your life, you find out through time was a fabrication. It was a lie. So who can you trust? Like it's not your real mom. It's not your real people. It's what's going on here. And think about the destabilization that happens. And this is who God picked. This is
like, do we believe it or not?
This is literally who God picks.
Yeah.
God goes, man, you are so disqualified. I like you. I'm going to use you. This is who God picks. This is why God picked me. You are so broken. I think I'd like to change history with you.
Let me have you rescue my chosen people.
We got to wrap our heads around it, man. Like, the celebrity culture is so backwards. God promotes the people who have no other option except for running into God. So anyways, there's a couple things going on with Moses. Like, first of all, we have his dysfunction.
Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry. You said something. I'm like, wait. That's true and not true at the same time. Celebrity culture, you're talking about just celebrity culture, not Christian celebrity culture, right? Just celebrity culture?
In general, yeah.
You said the broken have nowhere else to go. Bro, who else wants the broken? Not just God.
The devil.
Yeah, so what are you going to do? You're willing to sell out to anything to get to the top. It does work. You're willing to sell out to anything to get to the top. It's not backwards. It's just rocking the exact way that it's built, basically.
How does it work?
From a structural perspective?
Well, does it really work? Because he's talking like, now I'm in the philosophical element. You think it worked? You think it worked for Katy Perry?
What do you mean?
Just because you make a bunch of money, that works? It doesn't really work.
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying if you put something through a factory, here's the product that comes on the other side. If you're looking for fame and you're looking for the being used for big things.
Yeah, but I think we should frame that correctly. Like it doesn't go both ways, because the enemy is looking for those people. But if you sell out to the enemy, then it's like, yeah, you get rich, you get really famous. You hate yourself more than you can even imagine.
Correct.
You die knowing you betrayed the only things that mattered.
Yes.
That wouldn't be qualifying as working.
Got it.
I don't think it works, but what you're saying is they're both looking. The kingdom of God and the kingdom of Satan are both looking for the same people.
Thank you. That's a great clarification. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry, I had to interrupt that.
No, you're good. So we'll just do real quick. We'll go through like a backstory of Moses, because Moses has you probably like some weird chemical balance. Like there's parts of his personality that are just not okay. Even when he's rehabilitating in the wilderness, he's not okay. You can tell he's not okay because he is talking to Yahweh, the angel of the Lord, in the burning bush, and he's arguing with him. He's so afraid of going back somewhere that he will not agree to what God's asking him to do. It takes multiple passes for God to get his attention. This isn't normal behavior. We can backlog into this and we can see like, okay, when as a child, if you experience rejection early on, if you experience abandonment early on, if you experience volatility early on, you'll develop these weird attachment theories. So John Bowlby and I think it's John Hoffman, they have these attachment styles. I don't think we've talked about this fully on the show before in an episode that's been released. So like when you look at a situation that really threatens you or stresses you out, you can look at what your attachment style is based on how you behave right now, and it gives you a clue into what happened to you as a child.
Wow.
So do you try to control it? Do you like go in and control the situation? Do you cling to people? Do you withdraw? Do you hide? Do you run away? Do you swing, violently between all of them and you can't really tell? These are the different attachments. So you have the secure attachment, you have the anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, you have anxious avoidant attachment, which you could call disorganized. So what do we see with Moses early on. Avoidant. He's running away from something.
Yep.
He doesn't want anything to do with it.
Yep.
And then when we see him coming back in, we see him in a different attachment style. He's now anxious.
Trying to control.
He's like clinging to things.
Yep.
I need Aaron. I need Miriam. I need all these different people. So he never gets out of anxious attachment. He never changes. And I'm using conjecture here.
Sure.
But the first thing that happens in numbers 20 is Miriam dies. And he has somebody that he's leaned on and depended on and needed that now is no longer in the picture. The people don't grieve. Nothing's mentioned. She's buried, but we don't see any like formulaic processing of that. We just see this person died. And when that happens and your anxious attachment is a fear of abandonment, you start to cater to people pleasing. So if you're an anxious attachment, you're typically going to people please, you're going to over explain, you're going to over text, you're going to like chase down reassurance, you're going to kind of spiral a little bit, and you're going to try to stay important enough so that no one leaves you. This is the anxious attachment style. Me and you can both relate with this.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to become so freaking important that no one abandons me ever again.
Yeah.
Okay, why am I pulling this out of the text? Because God says, "Hey, they need water. Go speak to the rock." And Moses goes, "Must we create water for you?"
Yeah.
Okay, good job, Moses. You've just made yourself so important. You've just literally connected the future of all of these people to you specifically. So you're trying to avoid abandonment. This is looking at his attachment style. Oh, isn't this common sense? Like he was abandoned as a kid. He never dealt with it. And so there are other ones. You have the avoidant attachment. These would be the people who, which Moses dealt with for a little bit, where you just run from things. If you and your wife get into it and you just leave, you know, you're like, if I just don't need anything, I won't be hurt. You know, I'm afraid of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of being
My
here.
wife's looking at me. She's like, she was like,
yeah,
it's wonderful.
My wife we've had discussions about this because I'm anxious, avoidant most of the times. In fact, a brilliant commenter commented on one of the episodes with me and Lindsay.
Yeah.
And she said, the problem is you're an anxious attachment person.
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely correct. But she was able to deduce that from our conversation and just us talking about our history.
What?
So people who study this, you can get really good. Like you can tell like this person is this. And I was like, you're absolutely correct. And God's healing me every single day. But that's because of my core fear is abandonment. And you know this.
Mm-hmm.
But avoidant people are different. They fear vulnerability. I think they're actually two avoidant attachments. I'm not a doctor, so I can't put this into curriculum, but this is what I think. I think that there are two different avoidant attachments. One is more of like a fear of vulnerability and fear of dependence. And so they're just like, they don't want to need anything ever. And then the other is more of a fear of exposure or a fear of being overwhelmed. So these people they'll sit in a conversation and they'll just go quiet. They don't necessarily leave. It's just like you were in the room and now you're not in the room. Where are you? Earth to Jake.
Yeah.
You just all of a sudden got super numb. Like you're still there, but your fear is slightly different. And then you have the swings. So like disorganized, anxious, avoidant. This is where love was inconsistent early on. Emotional connection was inconsistent. Sometimes your parents were happy with you. Sometimes they weren't. As a child, you don't really understand why it's happening. You just get really attuned to knowing whether dad's home or dad's just in the living room. Those aren't the same things. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because people are like, I need connection, but connection's not safe. Why is it not safe? Because it could not be there tomorrow. And I can need it. It's not consistent enough. This is the biggest thing that God had to fix with me and Kate was some days I was there, some days I wasn't. And so I don't know if this will be on the video, but you saw her come in a little bit ago. We had to take a little break.
Mm-hmm.
Uno momento. Yes?
The TV won't work.
It won't?
I'm turning it to but then it turned something else.
How about you grab some books and do some quiet time?
Dad,
Yeah.
can I say something? Maybe you need to get back into the, you know how to turn on Disney on there?
Uh-huh.
The little thing that has all the apps on it
Yeah,
went away.
it did.
What do you push?
Well, I think we should take a break and read some books for quiet time.
I don't want to.
But I know. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of quiet time.
Well, what if I wasn't? What if the show didn't turn on? I'd still be watching it?
Yeah.
Then that's not fair.
Okay. I see your point. How about 30 more minutes?
Okay, but I don't know what to push, actually.
Okay. Can I have 2 seconds? And so it's just like, don't just be like, go out there. I'm not available right now. I'm busy. You didn't see us do that.
Mm-hmm.
There was a conversation. We pause. We're going to deal with this first. Yesterday, she came down. I was in the middle of writing for an event. I was like, she wants to talk. So I spent 30 minutes listening to literally nothing about her dreams. And I got the picture about halfway through that she was just making it up as she went. I don't know if she actually had the dream, but she just wanted to talk. And when my wife was growing up, she never got the opportunity to do that. And so there are seasons of our lives when my wife will be like, I need you, but I don't need you. I want to connect, but we can't connect. And then I'm anxious, so we spiral together.
Wonderful.
This is great because she's like, I need to withdraw. And I'm like, no, I'm going to prove that I'm worth it.
Yep.
And the closer I get, the more she feels like she's losing autonomy. So she pulls back more. And I'm like, you don't have to abandon me. I can show up for you. And then we just spiral.
Yeah, that's great.
This is John Bowlby. You can thank John Bowlby for this. So Moses is dealing with this. And he shows up. And he's like, we will fix everything. We'll do everything. Must we? But he's also bitter about it. He's mad about it. Because you will never allow these things to coexist with you without becoming bitter. The hallmark of protector personalities is you will always begin to hate the things that kept you alive early on. But they're outdated. It's like you don't need the 6-year-old imposter anymore. And so you become bitter. Peter Levine says traumatic systems are not caused by the triggering event itself. They stem from the frozen residue of energy that has not been resolved or discharged. This residue remains trapped in the nervous system, where it can wreak havoc on our bodies and our spirits. So the traumatic system, the symptom of the traumatic system is not the event. The traumatic symptom is when our bodies begin to relive those moments over and over again, and they're frozen in time. They just keep reliving them. So you take something like imposter syndrome, or you take something like self-sabotage, or any other behavior, the anger version of you, or the avoidant version. All of these things are developmental masks that arise when you are a child and you felt unsafe. And they develop to protect you. This is what Moses is dealing with. In the wilderness, in Kadesh, after losing the person that he had grown accustomed to and did not have any replacement. That's Moses. You want to move on to the people?
Yeah.
You good?
So far, what I'm getting is like that when I hear the attachment styles, I'm just thinking like, man, I wish I could be perfect and not have any of them all the time.
What we want is secure.
Yeah,
but
that's what we want.
It takes a while. I think it'll take a while to get to secure. My hope is that with the new education that we have, like parenting books and just the study that great men and women have done over the past 20 years, my hope is that our next generation has less traumatic relapse than the generation before it, which I think is possible because that's going to happen.
It sounds like more of a real dependency on God, like a real one. Because Moses and Aaron started the right way, they finished the wrong way. Like they were like, hey, let's go to the Lord. And then they were like, nope, let's take it back. It started great. There was like part 1 was good, but step 2 and 3 sucked. Yeah. And that's where it broke. So it's like, can we get a greater dependency on God? And dependency means, oh, I'm not feeling good. I'm going to go back to something. I'm going to go grab that thing. If that thing is God, then like you're going to be fine over a long enough period of time.
Okay. I think I relate with both. I relate with the Moses piece and I relate with the people piece as well. And I think we can condense these into the same lessons. I want to pull as much out of this story as I can before finishing with the mind personality stuff. So I want to go really deep on the people. The first thing that we've talked about is attachment styles of Moses. Moses' traumatic upbringing, the mistakes that he made that did disqualify him, but he kept looping, kept repeating these same things over and over. And he never fully caught that it was his fault. He always thought it was the people's fault. And this is a red flag. If you're a leader and you always are thinking that it's just the people, this is a red flag for you. Because Moses has had the same issues with 2 generations of people. Who's the common denominator? Friggin' Moses. This is a red flag. Let's be honest about Moses. He's like Moses, I don't think ever fully got behind his own calling. He was just kind of like tag along, drag along. He sort of roped into it. And there were things that probably were left unprocessed. Maybe he didn't have time to process them. But at the end of his life, you see him like, how many of Moses' issues were just recreated because he didn't know how to process the situation? People can get mad at me all they want for that. I have tremendous respect for Moses. Obviously.
Every influential person has made mistakes at some point.
Every single one.
All of them. Might as well learn from them.
Except for Jesus. And even Jesus said, why are you calling me good? No one is good except for God. This is a slight play on words because Jesus was God. But he's proving a point. Why do you say that? Why do you say that I'm good?
Yeah.
Don't call anyone good. So, okay. The story starts with a call out that they are in the land of Kadesh. They lived in Kadesh. Kadesh is a set apart place. Kind of a place where it's set apart, but when I think about set apart, I think about consecration. Consecration is what sets you apart. And the first thing that happens in this story is they're in a place of consecration and Miriam dies. I want to link these 2 things together for a second. The question I ask when I study this passage and this story is, what necessary endings must occur while I am in the season of consecration? The season that is set apart. What habits, routines, what people, what represents Miriam that was really good for me for a season, but now I'm in Kadesh. And for me to go from Kadesh to the promised land, something has to change. If you see this story roll out through the whole story of the Israelites before they get to the promised land, is a lot of things that have to die. Like their entire journey is like, there's this personality trait in these people. There's this lack of faith. There's this rebellion in these people that's dragging everyone down. And so they all die. They get into this place and then Miriam dies. And I can't help but like audit my life and myself and try to identify, is there a thing or a person or a system or a routine that I need to actually let die, let go in this moment? Make sense? It's not usually the bad things. Usually not the bad things. It's usually the good things that were really helpful when you had them. Really great for you. You loved them.
Are you thinking of any seasons right now when you're saying that are like, man, there's some good things that God asked me to leave behind and you didn't want to? You did it anyway?
Yeah, like my old businesses. This was before I knew that I didn't understand any of this. I just knew that God told me not to do it. Bro, freaking nicotine. Love nicotine. Talk about it all the time. I think there will be seasons of my life that I go through. There are seasons I go through where I don't drink coffee, don't drink alcohol. None. People. There's 2 people that I was really close with last year that I'm not close with right now. Not because they did anything wrong. It was just, I felt like I was instructed to let them move on and do their own thing. How deep do you want me to get? It's not going to be like, oh yeah, it's pornography. You're doing it. You're doing a 40-day fast. What are you fasting? Pornography? No, dude, that's not. It's not it.
Right.
These are the good things that you're not supposed to carry with you to the next season. And some of you like comment, and sometimes you're like, man, I just was in a season where I wasn't listening to the deep end. Great. Follow God. Yeah. No one is good except for God. I don't care. Like, do what you are called to do, but they're destabilizing. And you have to be prepared for a bit of that destabilization, because what comes after the consecration will be a temptation to grumble. And you see this in the people. They didn't mourn it. And so they started to grumble, and they started to, like, everything became hyper important. And when they gathered the crew together and they talked to Moses and Aaron, there were important details in this. The first thing is that they were talking about their economic future, their livestock. Livestock in the Old Testament always represented future provision, economic sustainability. They were talking about pomegranates and like fruit and stuff. What why are you talking about that? Because that's wealth. That's the wealth of our future. The ability to tend to our livestock and grow our crops and to do all these things. How is all of that going to happen? So they're drawing a distinction. God promised us all of this. How is that going to happen? Because there's no water. And what the old generation said is, we want to go back to Egypt because there's no water. These are different. They're not the same. So the old generation, they're slaves. They're like, we're going to die because we can't afford food right now. The new generation says, we won't see what God promised us because there's no water. Same trigger, different meanings. The meaning making comes from the prefrontal cortex. And so you've got this group of people that are group thinking, and they're basically saying, I can't trust God because he told us we were going to have this. And I can't see a way for us to get that because we're stuck in Kadesh with no water. This is what they're saying if you back into it. We're stuck in a holy place that is by design for consecration and being set apart. And we don't trust that God will give us our future because the ingredients that we would need for our future are not present right here. Welcome to the story of your life. Hey, we'll get right back to the show in 1 second. If you're interested in going deeper on these topics, spiritual discernment, prophecy, destiny, neuropsychology, we have a wonderful collection of trainings, and some of our favorite guests, we actually bring them out. We have them record full-on deep dive curriculum style pieces of education for you with workbooks and a community. It's really cool. I want to invite you to take a look at it. You can use the URL on the screen. It's novosnetwork.com/Kairos, Kairos. We'd love to see you inside. Back to the show.
What I'm thinking right now is like the Israelites were in a community, so the confirmation bias was overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, but we might think, oh well, that they were just physically there. Well, like how many of us are in social media groups, and you're in that one Facebook group that has this constant complaint, and everyone complains about that one thing. But does that really make a difference? Like, does that really change anything? Like, who are your people? Who's that group of people? And I feel like what you're reminding me of is like, why do we keep such like small circles? We don't have like a lot of people, because it feels like for us to do, at least for me, it feels like for me to do what I'm supposed to do, a lot of times I feel like I need to have a smaller circle so that I can go where I'm supposed to go and not get interrupted. With the people of Israel, I would imagine it was almost it. I would be curious. I'm curious on what your thoughts are with like, what do you do when you're in that big of a group and you've got confirmation bias here and there? Because it's still happening now. It might be online, But
You
like
can find
we're
your-
the same things.
You can find your own group now. It's easier to do that. I think it's easier to find a different group now than it was back then.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're watching this and you're like stuck somewhere. Some people will see their family, but even then, it's like you can stop talking to your family for a bit
True.
if you need to.
Yeah.
But the biggest map here is just like this is a map. Like everyone's going to go through the period of their life when they don't believe that God cares about them, and you'll deal with that. But before you get to the promised land, you'll go through another trial where you don't see how God's going to take care of it. You know God cares about you, but you don't see how he's going to fix it. This is where these people are at. They're not looking backwards, they're looking forwards. So they're less bad than the people in Exodus.
Yeah.
But they're still not where they need to be.
I'm trying to formulate this question of like, you have large communities of people, and I'm thinking about the Israelite community and how we still have that today. There's still communities within churches, there's still communities online. But tell me if you agree with this, that it would have taken just one person in the Israelite community, besides Moses. Like Moses is doing his thing, he's got enough to think about, he's got to strategize, whatever. But it would just take one person in the Israelite community to go, hey guys, like, are you guys stupid? Like, my question to you is like, what does it take to be that one person? It doesn't always rely on the leader at the top to fix everything. Sometimes I think we have this savior complex that we're just like, we want God to fix everything. We want this leader, this pastor, this teacher, whatever, to fix everything. Like there's so many people who will comment on even like Tim Alberino. They're like, man, let's have like, what's that guy's name? Wes Huff. They're like, let's have Wes Huff come after him. Like, what does it take? What do you think it takes for us in the day to day that don't necessarily see ourselves in that place of influence and leadership to start making a change against the things that are causing mistrust in God? It's causing complaining, things that are unproductive.
How did Joshua do it?
In what time? When he was leader, or
Before?
when he was a spy?
And then he was still alive here. He was in this generation. Because the spy happened before Numbers 20.
I think it's 12.
We're still like, we're in the spy happened in the old generation. He's still alive here.
Yeah.
What was his secret?
He took what God said and he didn't deviate.
Let me find it for you. There's one secret. Exodus 33:11. Exodus 33:11. Read it for us.
And so the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, just as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses returned to the camp, his attendant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, would not depart from the tent. Sitting with the Lord.
What's the difference between Moses and Joshua?
Joshua was obsessed with the Lord and he didn't need anything. He didn't always have that transactional relationship. He was more interested in just loving the
He
Lord.
wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
Moses got what he needed, went back, take care of the people. Joshua just would stay. I'm not knocking on Moses for that because that was how Moses was trained. Moses was trained that way.
Sure.
He was trained in the bureaucratic engine of Egypt. Joshua was trained differently. So how did Joshua do it? How did he become the one that trusted God when no one else did?
More of like a falling in love in a sense.
Sitting in the presence of God and not leaving when everyone else would.
Yeah.
That's convicting for me because I don't spend enough time with God. But I'm a little like Moses sometimes where I want God to tell me the instructions. Great. Thank you. I'll go do it. I've got it from here. And that's not how you advance. So I've got to make, in my own life, I have to make the change from this is Moses' archetype to this is Joshua's archetype. And I have to jump. I just have to make the change. But my instincts are still like, I don't know, let me go pray about that. Then I pray about it, I get it, I'm good.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm going to pray about it and I'm like, what else? Want to just hang out?
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I don't need anything. I don't care if I have the solution or not. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
That's how he did it. I think that's how we have to do it too.
You're reminding me of times where I sat at the church that you go to many years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, and Alex preached something. And I just sat there after the service ended for almost an hour because I couldn't move. And the time after that was the Jesus Image Conference in Orlando. Same thing. And it's been like over 2.5 years since I've just sat that long, letting the Lord just comfort me and sit with me.
Yeah.
Like for that long. Very convicting. You want to make the change. Yeah.
You don't have to sit. You can run. You can run your miles. Get your miles in.
Perfect.
The other day I was upstairs running, had my headphones on, and Andrew's new song, Midst, that just dropped.
Mm-hmm.
I was playing that in my headphones. I'm just crying, dude. Running and crying. I'm like, God, I don't need anything else. You're just the best. That bridge, he goes like, there's fire all consuming in our midst. There's anointing in our midst. You can speak however you want, like a whisper or like the wind. Doesn't matter. It's just this like massive moment where we have to get used to taking ourselves into the presence of God, allowing ourselves to be broken by the presence of God and staying. When God corrected me last year in the sauna, one of the biggest corrective moments I've had with the Lord is he was frustrated with me. And he said, you need to stop flinching when you look at me. Stop flinching. And he wasn't talking about physically looking at you. He was like, my posture when I encounter the presence of God and it makes me start to become emotional, I was like, out.
Yeah.
I don't want to cry.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose control.
Yeah.
I was basically like, look, what are you doing? If you don't trust me to sit and lose yourself, then you don't trust me at all. I was like, okay, I'll try. I'll do better.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a price to that. And the price has got to be paid. The price is time. I do not have time to do what Joshua did. I don't have time for it.
But the return, what's so funny is what you're saying is I feel like this is the exact conversation I've just had with my wife, which is I don't have time. I don't want to have to sit there and make my wife sit there and comfort me. But the thing that I get back is the safety of knowing that I am known. Finally, someone knows me. Not that they know me intellectually. I can be like, yeah, I cried. But showing you that is different. It costs me something different. And it's very painful. But that feeling that you get back of, I'm no longer alone in this anymore. And finally someone has known me. But when people are like, I feel so seen. Like, that's what it feels like. And it's insane. But it costs so much. Costs so much.
Yep.
It's easier to talk about on this show than it is to do it. If we're being honest.
Yep. All right, you want to keep going?
I'm down to keep going.
Okay, so the distinction. There's two. This is what's complicated about this passage. Is these are the reason I keep reiterating this is because people only talk about this from the Exodus lens. No one ever gets to the Numbers lens. They only talk about it from like, look at these stupid petty Israelites who like wanted to go back to slavery. But then there's Numbers 20 generation who never were in slavery, and they're sounding the same way as their parents. And they don't get in as bad of trouble. They still get reprimanded, but they don't get in trouble. They're calling on God to do what God said he was going to do, but they're doing it in a way that is litigious and gaslighting, and they are rewriting narratives as they go. So this is what Jesus ended up having to deal with, this same type of person in the Pharisees and the Sadducees in the New Testament. So they began to litigate against Moses. They prosecute. They're not coming at him asking him for wisdom. They are assigning motive and malice, saying like, well, God obviously wants to kill us. You want to kill us. Why would you lead us here? And this is rampant on the internet today. Somebody makes a mistake. We assume that they're some tyrannical serial killer. It's like, no, they just made a mistake. Like, we're assigning so much malice and intent behind things. And so let's go dive deep on this. They begin to rewrite history as we do. when we're mad with God, we forget everything God's ever done for us. Don't we?
Mm-hmm. Literally everything.
Everything.
It's so bad, man.
And God is now being accused of being a bad leader.
Yep.
They're accusing God of bad leadership via earthly leadership, because Moses is God's leader and it's God's chosen one. And so there's saying you lied to, there was false promises, like you were slandering your intent. And the Bible uses this language that is like to strive, contend, accuse, or litigate. This is legal language. So they're basically having this like forum to accuse, and they're doing it before the Lord. This is what the people say, before the Lord. So they're gaslighting, and they're not longing for the Lord. They're using God language to justify cowardice and a lack of faith. This is the same exact thing you see in the Pharisees, where the Pharisees are quoting scripture, but they don't give a crap about scripture.
Good holding back.
They do not care. They invoke the perception of holiness when they're not holy. They refuse to obey. You know what Jesus says in Luke 10, I think. Jesus basically looks at them. It's when Jesus is going ham, dude. Like, maybe we should read it. We don't have to read it.
Why not? We're having longer episodes. What's your deal?
Okay, we can read it. Sorry, it's Luke 10. Jesus is going crazy, bro. And he is he's calling them all frauds. Hold on. Let me find it. No, it's Luke 11. Check this out. I'm using the Passion Translation because I like it in this for this regards. Luke 11:39. The Lord said, "You Pharisees are religiously strict to your customs and obsessed with the peripheral issues. You are like one who will wipe clean only the outside of a cup, leaving the inside filthy. You are foolish to ignore the greed and wickedness within you. Shouldn't the one who cleans the outside also be concerned with cleaning the inside? If you free your heart of greed, showing compassion and true generosity to the poor, you have more than clean hands, and you will be clean within. You Pharisees are hopeless frauds, for you are obsessed with peripheral issues, like paying meticulous tithes on the smallest herbs that grow in your garden. These matters you should do. Yet when you unjustly cheat others, you ignore the most important duty of all, to walk in the love of God. Readjust your values and place first things first. You Pharisees are hopeless frauds." So it's just like boom, boom, boom. Your true character is hidden like an unmarked grave that hides the corruption inside, defiling all who come in contact with you. Check this out. Just then, a specialist in interpreting religious law blurted out, "But teacher, don't you realize that your words insult me and those of my profession? You're being rude to us all." Jesus responded, "Yes, and you are also hopeless frauds, you experts of the law, for you crush people beneath the burden of obeying impossible religious regulations, yet you would never even think of doing them yourselves. What hypocrites! What frauds! You build monuments to honor the prophets of old, yet it was your murdering ancestors who killed them. The only prophet you'll honor is a dead one. In fact, by erecting monuments to the prophets, you demonstrate your agreement with your murdering ancestors and bear witness to their deeds. You are no better than they." This is the most intense.
Oh, the overwhelming,
You don't want
reckless love of God. Okay.
You don't
The other
want
side.
Jesus saying this to you, but he takes an issue with the gaslighting, with the image of something that is not in their heart. And this is what the Israelites are doing. They're like talking before the Lord as if they care about the Lord.
It's the truck that just drove by on screen.
Okay.
It's okay.
And this is a generational pattern. And we have to, I think it's just like a warning shot for us is like, look, I do not want to use my understanding of God's character to gaslight and try to control God's timing.
Hmm.
I don't want to use my understanding of religious law to box God in. We just did the deep dive with the mind of God for Novus.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell how concerned I was to make sure people didn't try to use the education to go control the spiritual atmosphere. So what we have today is we have a lot of Christian warlocks. We have a lot of Christian witches. We have a lot of people who believe in Jesus, but they only explore spiritual understanding to control and make their lives better.
Mm.
I saw a video of Jesse Duplantis, old prosperity gospel guy.
Got it.
And he was standing on stage and preaching, and he was like,
"You're mad at me because I live in a mansion? I'm just acting like my father because he living in a mansion." Some people get mad because I said something about a watch the other day. You know why? Because they don't have one. They don't realize. Would you got mad if you saw God wearing a fine watch? No.
and I was like, bro, I can see Satan in his mouth. As if that was that. Do you see Jesus in that? Where's Jesus in that, bro?
Nowhere.
That's why I'm like,
Jesus didn't say that either.
I'm
though.
disgusted with it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Jesus would have never said anything like that either.
No,
Not the
Jesus
same
would
way.
have been saying like, you are a hopeless fraud. You are lying to people. You're putting a burden on people that you won't even pay yourself. This is like the problem with spiritual education is when people learn spiritual education, they use it to enrich themselves. That's witchcraft. And this is exactly what the Israelites are doing. They're using religious language to try to control Moses.
Mm.
And it works. They force Moses to go before God and do his thing, and then they get water. They get it. It sort of works. That's why people do it.
God honors it still.
And, you know, Gideon and Jacob, and like, this seems to be a pattern. It's like something happens with their memory banks. So they begin to rewrite it. So they're like delivered from something. Then they forget that they were delivered from it. They have a memory failure, and then they complain. They request an update. We need to do a deep dive on Gideon at some point. You know, Gideon's first test of God was not the cloth. It was way before that. And he had already tested God in the validity.
Oh, it was the angel of the Lord.
Yeah, he already had proof.
Yeah, he literally made it obvious, and then he still asked for proof.
And then he forgot very quickly. He very quickly forgot. And there's a pattern here as well.
Yep.
The more you require proof, the more proof you're going to require. Because the first time, all he needed was one piece of proof. And then the second time, he got the proof and he reversed it and asked for it again. Mm. This is the pattern of the human brain. The more you require proof, the more proof you're going to require over time.
That
Anyways, back to this. Here's the other thing that they did. The enemy loves to do this. He will try to get you, especially in a moment where you're relapsing, where you're feeling like you aren't going to make it. You can't see how God's going to provide for you. You will begin to feel like the promise was a trap. This is a weird redefinition of, this has happened to me so many times. In fact, I just drove out East Tennessee and I met with somebody. And he was like, this is what's happening to you. The enemy has convinced you that obedience is a trap. And I was like, oh my God, that's true. I think that's true. You know why I think that's true? Because the last time I was obedient, it really ruined my life, bro. And then after that, I was obedient and it made it worse. And I'm like, I have data. I have data, legitimate data. Don't pastor me and be like, oh, yeah, that's not God. No, I can prove it to you. When I obeyed God, my life didn't get better. On the surface. What do you do with that, Jesse Duplantis? What do you do? Was I not obedient because I didn't get a fancy watch in the mail when I obeyed God? Like, was it worth it? Shame on all of you. There are people obeying God all the time and their lives are not at the top. And here we have the same thing with the Israelites. We obeyed. Why does it look like we're going to die? Tell us, Moses. We followed. And we're all going to die. Why? And the promise begins to feel like it's going to kill you. You're going to die before you see the promise. And this happens when you get close enough that in the spiritual realm, you're starting to become dangerous. This always happens right before something unlocks and you break through. If you study the timeline of these, right before you cross over, as a last ditch, through the way that our minds are subject to the spiritual realm, there will be things that try to convince you that if you obey, you are going to die. This doesn't happen at the beginning. It happens at the end. It's a good little map. It's a good little reassurance. If you feel this way, if you feel like, yeah, I relate. I feel like every time I've obeyed God, my life has really gotten worse and I'm scared to obey. Congrats. You're almost there. Because you only see that attack scheme happen right before somebody gets to the promised land. And what happens when you get to the promised land? You have to fight your way in. So that's a different thing. All of this triggered this group of people to misbehave. And if you read through the rest of the story, the consequences accrued up to the top, the leadership. And I think the point of the story is it is a map for the people, and it is instruction for the leader. You can audit where you are based on the experiences of the people, but you can correct your life based on the instructions given to Moses. There was no formula for Moses to follow. God didn't say, just do what you did last time. 2 + 2 = 4. Every single time God asked Moses to do something, it was different. Every time God asked Jesus to do something, it was different. So there's the only formula that exists is like you have to go to God and ask God what he wants you to do.
I want to, if I can butt on this.
Butt in all you want, bro. Butt in hard.
When you think of trusting God, we talk about altars, we talk about obedience, we talk about delays. There's not really any such thing as like a 40-year, 10-year wilderness season, whatever. But what do you say when you're like, God, I trust you, and you don't know if it's an obedience thing? You don't know if you delayed something. It seems like the oversimple answer that no one wants to hear, but we all kind of know is true, is just trust God, man. Just trust God. He's got it figured out. Right? But what do you feel like is the nuance to that of like, just trust God, but you might have some obedience problems. There might be some delays that are going on because of this, and you're not aware, and you're mislabeling trusting God when you're really in disobedience, or you're really in something else it's your fault. Like, you might trust God, but it's also your fault that God hasn't moved you forward.
Let's first talk about why that happens, why there are sometimes delays. And to be clear, I'm distinguishing between a wilderness season and like a delayed promotional season. I don't think those are the same things.
Sure.
A wilderness season is 100% disobedience, and you caused it.
Israelites caused the wilderness to happen?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they caused it.
Like when they got kicked out of the promised land. That was
they never went into the promised land.
I meant, okay. I thought you meant when they left Egypt and had to get to the promised land. I was like, what are you talking about? Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, that was 40 days. That wasn't really like
yeah. And they got pushed out.
Season.
Yep. 40 years. That sucks.
40 years. That's wilderness seasons. I think we've like made it into like this thing where we're like, I'm just in a wilderness season. Okay, well, that's just like basically being like, I was stubborn, I disobeyed God, and I kind of, mucked it up. And okay, well, we don't equate it that way, or you wouldn't be admitting it. If you knew what a wilderness season is, that wouldn't be the first thing out of your mouth.
Right.
How are you, brother? I was in the wilderness. Wait, how many times did you disobey, bro? Like, what caused that?
We should change that in culture.
Yeah, that's a weird cultural misappropriation. Whereas a promotional season sometimes can be delayed. So you have Joseph in prison, and you have him like experiencing a span of years that he didn't necessarily cause, but there's no way to get him where he needs to be without going. You have David in the caves, and he didn't necessarily cause it, but you have no way to clean out the nation, both nations, for him to take them both without that period of time. You have, a period of years where Esther's sort of like playing beauty pageant and doesn't really want to be there. And so there's promotions. You have to be put into this position. It's uncomfortable. We're not like living the dream, but we are not being rebuked all the time. Like, we're not stuck in the wilderness, So the wilderness season is usually self-inflicted. Take that with a grain of salt. Take that to God. I'm not saying that everyone has to follow that, but
Or clarification, you're also not saying it's not normal for God to put you in transition, because there was a transition from Egypt to Promised Land, and that was supposed to only be a 40-day quote unquote wilderness season. That 40 days got translated 10 times or way more than that into 40 years. That's as long as a wilderness was supposed to be. You're saying a wilderness season in the sense that you're experiencing quote unquote suffering longer than you were definitely supposed to get to the promise.
Yeah, you delayed it. You were the one that delayed it.
Yep.
And this is the problem with God's. It's not a problem. We'll rephrase that. This is how God set up his sovereignty to work. God gives free will. So if one of my kids does something that causes them to get sick, I can tell them not to do it again. But then if they just choose to do it, at a certain point, especially in adulthood, I have no control over their choices.
Yeah.
So God will never force you to align with what he's calling you to do. So this is unfortunate because we can be in a promotional season. Someone somewhere else isn't getting with God's program. So we get stressed out a little bit. And this is where I've gotten in trouble for not obeying. You have no idea the ripple effect that your disobedience could cause for other people. We don't want to be delayed because of somebody else's disobedience, but we have no problem delaying the whole earth because we want to be disobedient.
Yep.
Be challenged by that. There should be some conviction from that. So you get with the program. When God asks me to do something, I'm not 100%, bro, but I'm getting better because I know that there's a ripple effect. And at some point, I don't want to be judged based on the delay that some random person in Cincinnati or Sacramento is experiencing because I wouldn't say yes. Like, that's not what I want to get in trouble for. And these are where you get stuck sometimes, is like you're being promoted and God is working the game theory of the entire planet at the same time.
So you actually, I'm using something that one of our audience members created. It's a really cool little resource, but I was able to find the episode. You actually talked about in Sin and Suffering. You said, sometimes I think I've been guilty of complaining to God because he won't speed up without realizing that he's just waiting on me.
Uh-huh. Yeah, 100%. And he did this too with Israelites as well. And there were some things, I think everyone in scripture has the same story. They'll have to wait a little bit longer than they wanted to wait. Sometimes it's not their fault, but sometimes it's not their fault and it's their protection. Why, again, going back to the same thing, why can't we walk and chew gum at the same time? Why do we choose to make everything a dichotomy? What if your trial is designed both to give you training in faith and to teach somebody else how to be obedient? What if it's both ends? Is the manifold wisdom of God, you know what manifold means? It's layers deep and they don't conflict with the other layers. These are all true at the same time. Great question. You can keep going.
No, that's what I had. Is there somewhere you feel like we need to go from here?
Yeah, I think we should go into just like quick nervous system temp checks.
Sure.
Because I think that part of this is if you get into co-regulation, I have to put a lot of responsibility on Moses for both the Exodus generation and the Numbers generation. Not saying it's his fault, but I think that there's a pattern in Moses' life of not responding to pressure the right way. And then his team sort of multiplies that out. And then underneath the team, you have the people multiplying that out. And so it becomes this big pyramid.
Starts at the top.
It sort of starts at the top. And so if at any point Moses would have just had the tools necessary to clean out and like settle himself down. We've talked about this before as well, but like when I study mostly extra biblical accounts of who Moses was, who they think his mother was, which we don't fully know who his mother was. The Josephus has an idea, and then there's like some other accounts. I've read all of them, but the moral of the story is that his mother was like the sister of the Pharaoh, like very powerful. And so he was being trained. Paul said he was trained diplomatically, a great speaker. There are historical accounts of him going out and fighting battles for Pharaoh and coming back. Like he's got all of this stuff. We don't get the full picture in the Bible of
Not
him.
like a weak little shepherd.
He's not an idiot, dude.
No.
He's got resources. He's got men. He has influence. Again, conjecture. I don't have a problem using conjecture. I'm going to go for it, but I'm going to let you know it's conjecture. I think that there's a really good case to be made that God's original design was not for Moses to confront Pharaoh and do all of the plagues and kill everyone thing. I don't think that was God's original design. I think God has a pattern, and we can see in God's nature his pattern of like leverage points, words. Again, you go back to game theory, how everything is created and then managed through the flow of time, through throughput. I think there's a case to be made that the plan was for Moses to rise from within Egypt, take over, and then free the Israelites. And instead, Moses is triggered. Who knows what deities and gods were involved in that decision. He's triggered. He succumbs to anger. And he gets run out of Egypt. I think that the gods in Egypt were like, we escaped. We escaped destiny. Yahweh was coming after us. And we got the leader to cater and to move on. But we talked about this in the currency of heaven. It's just delays the inevitable. Because God will just pivot around you. He's not going to abandon you. But the original plan, you might have ruined. And then God's like, new plan. Same person, let's bring you back in. All of it comes down to like, you've got this just extremely compromised dude who's so traumatized by his upbringing that he can't tell what's what. And through the lens of modern science and modern psychology, we have to run ourselves through a process of settling ourselves down and letting the protector parts that you would call self-protection be seen and kind of get out of us, because it's not actually who you're supposed to have leading you. So whether you find yourself people pleasing or overperforming or chasing approval or distancing from accountability or controlling situations or turning to self-sufficiency or trying to earn your way through, like these are all protector personality types, where you'll create your own chaos and hide in the middle of it. You will create a bunch of intensity and then you'll disappear. These are all protector parts. So you've got a version of you that was from when you were a kid that learned that if you created distance, your parents would find you. And now you do that in your adult relationships. As a child, you learned that if you could just like get really good grades, you would receive approval. So now you're chasing approval through performance. As a child, you learned that whenever people didn't agree with you, you were excommunicated. So now you're a chameleon with your adult friends. You can never stand for something because it feels like you're going to be excommunicated. All of these things we have to settle down, because it turns when we're actually operating according to these protectors, what's happening is our true self is turning off. Hoffman will call it like the true self, the part of you that is integrated from spirit, mind, and body. It's not a believer, by the way. It's just interesting how it maps to scripture. It's like, yeah, we already know that. Spirit, mind, body. Same thing. They took it from the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the spirit, you have the intellect, you have the emotions, which is in between, and you have the body. These are like the four quadrants. And what we have to do is we have to settle down and we have to allow ourselves to become aware of who these protector people are, who these versions of ourselves are. This is what we're going to basically do in Sacred Timelines. It's just 2 days. We have way more time to do it. When we can become aware of it, especially if we're in the presence of the Holy Spirit, we can sort of let them go, and then the Holy Spirit can turn our dominant self back on. This is what happened with me when the Lord took me through like inner child therapy. I saw this version of myself that was 9, and he was just like self-disqualify yourself because you're not going to get chosen. So what does a child do when he knows that he's not going to get chosen? Just bow out before you can be not chosen.
Yep.
You know, and that 9-year-old version is not doing that to hurt me. It's doing that because it doesn't want me to be disappointed.
Right.
And so I see this kid and the Holy Spirit is like showing me all this stuff, and then it happens again, and it's just cycling through my life. And like, what do I do with this? Why are you showing me this? I don't remember what episode this was, but I was actually mad at God for showing it to me because I didn't ask him to. It was about something different. And the Lord was just like, tell him thank you. And then tell him you don't need him anymore.
Yeah, this was the cost of being chosen episode.
The cost of being chosen.
Thank you to the audience members that made this resource available.
What is it?
It's called searchthedeepend.com. Searchthedeepend.com. So I can literally, I just now searched up inner child therapy. That was when you said it. And it literally pulls up every transcript from every episode where you said this. And it's at 56 minutes exactly in the cost of being chosen. You said the Holy Spirit said your whole life has been about proving that if someone would just pick you, they wouldn't regret it. And it's time for you to stop.
Yes. Okay, so this was before. I had never heard of interfamily or
IFS.
I think it's
Internal Family Systems. Right?
Internal Family Systems. I had never heard of Hoffman. I had never heard of like different personalities inside of a person's body. Never heard of that. This is the Holy Spirit saying, here's this person. Say thank you. Was the first thing. I was like, what the heck? Why would I say thank you? This person feels like it's ruined my life. Say thank you because he protected you and no one else would protect you. You had no one else that could show up and protect you. So say thank you and say you don't need them anymore. And so becoming aware of who it is. And so you should just like ask yourself the question, when I am feeling like I cannot move forward, who is it that is causing me to retreat? It's not the devil. It's a version of you. It's somewhere where you were compromised. And the only way you could survive is if you had an alternate version show up and take the pain for you and take the decision for you. So people who are like trapped, they can't make a decision. They're overwhelmed by decisions. You all have a version of you who is willing to be wrong, to make the decision, to take the pain if you're wrong. That's the imposter. It's a part of who you are. And so learning how to look at that, and you should ask the Lord, like, show me who I'm working with. Who is this? I was at an event teaching this one time, and this guy was going through the exercises, and afterwards he had a question, and he was like, every time I go through the exercise to see my inner child, I can't see myself. I was like, who do you see? He said, I see my son. My 3-year-old son right now. I was like, that's okay. It's because that's the only one that you can relate with. You don't have you can't relate with any version of yourself except for the version of yourself that you see as your 3-year-old son. So you don't want to overthink it. Whoever God shows you is who God shows you. You say, thank you, let them go. You begin to heal because you begin to acknowledge it and you let it go. There are people who have been through like really, really abusive situations and traumatic situations. Do this with somebody who's trained to do it. Do it with a professional. Do it with somebody who knows how to handle you. You have to learn how to self-regulate. If your intensity gets over like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 and you start feeling crazy, just stop. We don't push through that. Settle down, because there might be real stuff in there that feels like it's gonna come loose. So you just be careful with this. But when you do this, there's a spiritual component of like when David's sitting down in Psalms 23. This is the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You go into this and unpack it. He restores my soul. The word for restores what it means to bring back. It's bring back online. It's to turn back on. The Lord is he restores my soul. He turns something back on. It's this idea of reinstating something that was original and unblemished. He wasn't talking about inner child therapy, but it can be integrated because when the Lord is your shepherd, the Lord's taking responsibility for your protection. It's his will, it's his bill. He can handle it. He's the one that's telling you what to do. When you trust him fully and you begin to see how he's operating, It has a way of turning back on the original design, restoring your soul. When you flip the switch back on, the original Jake comes back, not the overperformer, not the evasive, avoidant, but the original Jake. But that requires a mode of safety. You have to trust that God's actually got you. So he's contained you. And then you go through that whole thing and he's talking about like, there's no way for me to have deficiency. It's not possible. All of this language is pointing back to safety. It's all safety.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave, it's all safety, which is modern therapeutics is all about safety. If your body doesn't feel safe, you can't change the memories. If you can't change your brain. And then what happens in Psalms 23? There's safety, safety, safety in the presence of who?
My enemies.
My enemies.
Yeah.
So safety is being like widened out. Safety is not a place. Safety is a proximity. It's not a place. You don't get safety when there's traumatic experiences in Memphis. You don't get safety by leaving Memphis. You don't get safety by leaving. And so people will do this. Be like, I got to move out of this city. Why? Because I had a divorce in this city. Okay, it's not. You're not healed. I'm not saying that it's not a good idea. I'm just saying safety does not come from a place. It comes from proximity, where safety invades a situation. We don't just go to the dangerous spots and try to relive them. We take the safety of the presence of God into these places. And that's what God did with David. In the presence of your enemies, there is safety. Your true self is turned back on and restored. There's no deficiency. And he goes on, why would I fear the future? So now we're talking temporal. Safety is now in my past, it's in my present, and it's in my future. And the whole landscape begins to become safe. Just from a proximity standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Just crazy.
That crazy?
It is really good. It's really helpful.
Last thing, we can audit this. We can look at what we struggle with, and you can usually find those things in your past. And these are clues of like what you need to fix. Just like the attachment styles, clues into like what happened to you. But when a child grows up and they experience things in their family or whatever, they end up imitating those things. There's two ways that we imitate. The first way we imitate is through what's called adoption. So my parents were critical. Now I'm critical. We model because we're like, well, if we become like them, then they'll accept me. It all comes down to like love and acceptance. Suffering is not random. It happens by design because of what happens to us. My parents are cold, and so I become distant, right?
Mm-hmm.
My parents are anxious, so I become hypervigilant and try to like regulate everything, you know? But the other way we imitate is through rebellion. And this is where it gets sneaky. Because you want to be the opposite of your parent and rebel, but you're so obsessed with it that you become it.
Mm.
The best way to become exactly like your mom is to try to not become your mom. Because that's how like energy dynamics work. So your parents are angry, so I become suppressive. I refuse to be angry, and then I explode.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. My parents are critical, and so I just refuse to judge anyone. And then I can't help but nitpick everything because I'm so evaded. I'm evading one thing. It's like causing me to be obsessed with it.
Mm.
My parents are controlling, so I just choose that I'm going to avoid all responsibility. But then shame becomes so dominant that to survive, I have to control everything. And so you imitate through adoption and through rebellion. And we can look at these things and see them as survival strategies. Like the reason that you lose your temper, it's okay. Stop hating yourself for it. The reason you lose your temper is because you had to learn how to survive as a child. So let's not hate on that version of yourself. This is why we have to be so careful, like parents and churches are honestly just the worst at this because they want to correct everything through like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Behavioral modification, fix your behavior. That's bad. You're disqualified. And then people become filled with shame and they default back to the same thing.
And then the leader's doing all the things that they told everyone not to do.
Wow.
And
that
then
was
they
intense,
fall.
dude. Wow. That was,
What?
wow, that was over the line, bro. I'm just kidding.
I was like, what are you talking about? You know my point.
Versus saying, hey, listen, the reason you're behaving this way is because your safety was violated as a child. Whether that was through abuse or whether that was through avoidance and nobody was there for you, or whether that was through religious duty and you can never measure up. We need to take this version of you that is causing this. We need to invite the Lord into it. And we need to give the gratitude to this version of yourself for keeping you alive in this moment. You have to say goodbye to it. And when the body begins to just be like, okay, I don't have to bring this up anymore. Like, I don't have to survive anymore. What you resist persists. And so we try to run from it, and it just keeps coming back because the body's like, you can't forget this moment. This almost killed us when we were 5. We just got to do a better job with that. How you handle somebody when they make a mistake is the number one ingredient to their healing. Just true story.
It is true.
So anyways, I think that's where we land the plane, is being able to go into the presence of God and ask him to partner with us and educate us and show us, where am I allowing an old version of myself, just like Moses did, to dominate and overrule the way that I know I'm supposed to act, the way I'm supposed to think and supposed to behave. And it's not a one-time fixes it. So Paul chimes in here. It says, through the renewing of your minds, all the time, because we have predispositions. If we were abandoned as a child, we have we're preconceived to have these things hit us. And so we'll do this every day. I've gone through inner child therapy with God several times since the first time, because I'll wake up and be like, I'm like back to like not wanting to do anything because I don't want to be chosen last. I just take it back to God. God, first of all, I'm sorry because I know you fixed this already, but will you kind of help me fix this again? Yeah, okay, let's do it. Here's the kid. He protected you as a child. He did his job. Thank you. We don't need you anymore. Why don't I need that little kid? Because I have a superior protector. I would rather have the protection of Jesus than the protection of my 9-year-old self. That's a better protector. So we're going to substitute one out with the better protector.
Yeah.
If we don't have, this is why it's hard to do. If we don't have a better protector, then sometimes the world is like, well, I got rid of the 9-year-old and now I'm stuck with the 27-year-olds. Okay, well, like I said, you can get to 99%, but you can't get to 100. You've got to have the plumbing, the spiritual plumbing to be able to go straight to the top. You know. Anyways,
Really good.
anything else you would say before we hop off?
What I would say, the thing that I keep thinking about is this thing of, I think for me personally, what's been helpful in my journey of even just so much radical self-honesty with myself and my wife is this idea of, if I can't be safe with my wife, who can I be safe with? If I can't be safe with God, who can I be safe with? And if I'm not willing to show that, I think, here's what I'll say. I just started crying in front of my wife in the past 4 weeks after a 1.5 years of marriage. I'm probably not going to cry on this show for a while until I'm a little bit more healed, because that's a vulnerability that I'm still working through. But I believe that there's a real permission that people feel when they can see that. And I think for us, even the first step, one of the first steps is, can you let all of your stuff out with God? And one of the ways that comes out is through tears. But sometimes there's something about, maybe it's just for guys, but for me, it's just like, I don't want to cry in front of God. I don't want to come across as I'm complaining. But I think one of the best things that we can do is just get as real as possible with God, whatever that looks like, to take that first step and then start to heal the past so we can finally move forward all of us, like literally every single person, whether you're watching this or you're me or you, Taylor, like we all know people who have not moved forward for so long because they just won't move past that one stupid thing. They see it as the end all be all, and it's what marks their day and night,
Well,
every family gathering.
It might not be stupid to them.
It's not stupid to them whatsoever, but we're like, come on, man, like, let's go. But if we start with being real with God and ourselves, like,
Were you punished as a child for crying when there wasn't a good reason to cry?
no, I don't think so.
I wonder why crying is such a vulnerable thing for you.
I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
Huh.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting.
There'd be answers to that for sure. But at least for me, the takeaway for me is continue being honest with God and myself as much as possible, because I don't want to end up in a place where the things that are unhealed in my past are going to affect my future forever.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Love it, bro. Well, I'm going to beat the crap out of you at pickleball later. So
I thought we were going to play the same team.
we should actually.
We got work to do. Come on.
I almost posted this yesterday because I finished a long run yesterday.
Yeah.
It just felt so good. And I took a picture and I like looked so good and was posted it. I was like, I'm trying to sculpt the perfect physique for pickleball just to embarrass Jake next time we play against each other. But then I was like, people
Then you realize I don't even
serious.
see it. I wouldn't even seen it on
You wouldn't
Instagram.
see it. And we haven't played against each other in a while. But
I don't actually care to play against you right now. I just want to play with you and crush it. Right now, I'm serious. Let's go. I'm excited.
Look at that, dude. Yeah, Heather can't play anymore because she's not
I
good.
lost my pickleball partner with Heather. So that would be, we don't have any sponsors for this podcast yet, and we haven't said yes to any of them. So I wouldn't be against the pickleball brand if it's the right one. You know what I'm saying? There's a certain one I have in mind, but I won't say it.
Boomstick?
Thank you. Boomstick is not a brand, but people
sorry.
can look it up on their own time. All right, let's land this plane. We're people are just hanging out at this point. You want
Hey, how
people
do
to go do
people
anything?
get tickets for the next event? A lot of people are asking. All right, in the next episode, it'll be announced.
All right, family, healing, relationships. Let's go. All right, anything else, sir?
No, I'm just looking through questions, see if we have any, but I think we're good.
All right, cool.
Adios.